So how did you first meet up with Africa Bambaataa?
It was part of writing an article for Dance Music Report and interviewing. I found out about this. There was a record store that we used to call every week because they were a lot of DJs were buying records there. It was called Downstairs Records. It was also a place I knew because I used to go there to buy doo-wops. They have a famous store in the subway there on 43rd Street and 6th Avenue. And I used to go there, and all of a sudden I heard about this special room they opened that was called a breakbeat room, which was, they only sold breakbeat records or b-boy room. And I didn't know much about it, so I went down to find out. And they were selling, albums by acts like Billy Squier and the Monkees and the Eagles and Bob James, and I'm saying, well, what do all these acts have to do with each other? It was really, and then they had 45s that were probably bootlegs of things like Scorpio and Son of Scorpio, all of Dennis Coffey records and things like that, and I was wondering what they all had in common, and the guy named Elroy, who was the clerk in the store, had a answer. He said it was because there's this guy up in the Bronx named Bambaataa, and he plays all these records, and all these kids come down here to find the records that he plays, and he comes down and buys the records here too. So that was the beginning. So I went to find Bambaataa, and then I found out about the Zulu Nation, and I heard Bambaataa DJ and what he did with this music live, and I asked him if he wanted to make a record, even though I hadn't put a record out yet. There was no label.
Now, when the record came out, did you think of it as hip-hop or electric funk or electro-funk, or what did you think, or just dance music?
Good question. I mean, we called it electro-funk, but it was really dance music. And Africa Bambaataa was just a dance DJ because there was no hip-hop yet. The word hip-hop hadn't come to fore. This whole idea of hip-hop. And what these guys were doing on it was rapping, but it was, so we called it rap music, or, And anyway, the synthesis of and inclusiveness of all of the different kinds of music Bambaataa used made it very attractive to people who might not have been into traditional straight-ahead urban black or urban dance music. So it had a broad, gay clubs from Seattle were playing it. We also had to put on the B-side instrumental versions because there were a lot of clubs that couldn't play the rap part. They only could play the instrumental.
But speaking of WFMU, which you mentioned there, Monica Lynch, now she was your right-hand person for many years.
She was there almost from the beginning. She was president. She became president, and she answered an ad for Guy Gal Friday in the Village Voice, and she worked just by my side and basically ended up dealing with artists' relations and A&R and all of the visual parts, the video creation and the imagery of create music around those lifestyles. So we did a lot of things like 808 State, LFO, and Cold Cut, which was the beginning of the whole electronic music scene, and before that, Information Society. So and all of that, by the way, Information Society begat from Planet Rock as well. So it all goes back to that kind of root.
Now, Steinsky is an artist that you put out, but you put out when he won that contest, and because of all the samples, you couldn't put it out legally. Did you have a lot of problems with other, more legitimate ones where there was sampling issues, and what was the first thing that you had problems with?
Planet Rock was the first thing, because it was a publishing sample from Kraftwerk in there.
So it didn't rework it. It was actually a sample then.
It wasn't a sample. It was a publishing use. It was a rework, but the publisher came after us, and the publisher scared us and extracted a pound of flesh, much more than what people would give today. I think it's since been renegotiated, but it was a difficult and scary situation. And after that, I hired an in-house lawyer, so we cleared all the samples on things like 3 Feet High and Rising by De La Soul.
That was a lot of samples on that.
A lot of samples, like 30 or something, and you had the publishing side and the record side, and we missed one on one of the short interstitial pieces by the Turtles that was only about a 2-second loop that was slowed down from 45 to 33, and they didn't tell us it was a sample, and the Turtles came after us, and we had to settle for a massive amount for a minute and a half long song, Broadcasting Live from Mars, I think it was the song.
Now, with that, De La Soul, I know that one of the, I think it was Balloon Mindset, one of those albums where they were just, ranting as many artists do about their label. How does it feel when you have a label and then you're putting out music by the artists who are talking crap about you?
It didn't feel good at first because it was the first time, but after having it done enough, I feel like, I guess insults are the highest form of flattery in some ways. You can't expect an artist to see it from a label's perspective. We try to see it from the artist's perspective. I've been doing it long enough now that it's not a question of whether it's on the record or them just complaining about things. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when they come back. And it almost seems like the more successful they are, the more they complain.
Yeah. Well, you had the Midas touch, not just in the 80s, but in the 90s too. It seemed like everything that came out, House of Pain, Queen Latifah, Naughty by Nature, Digital Underground, just like everything. So who was doing the A&R for you?
I'm glad it seems like it was everything, but it really wasn't everything. For every one that was a hit, there was 5 that were stiff, so we were batting 200, which is okay. It's not great, but the few ones that were really big were really big. There were plenty we put out, or we signed that we never put out, that just didn't live up to our hopes when we signed them. So, but you're graded by your successes, not by your failures. Monica did much of them. She found many of them where they came to us. Actually, in the early days, once I found Bambaataa, and he brought the first record on Tommy Boy was Cotton Candy, a song called Having Fun, which he was playing and he found out about. So that's how I found that one. He turned me on to Johnson Crew, Pac Jam, which he had found. And then I had Jazzy Sensation with him, with one group, and so I had the Jazzy 5 and Soul Sonic Forests. So those were 2 things from him. And then Mr. Magic had brought in the Force MDs and Stetsasonic, and the DJ from Stetsasonic was Prince Paul, and Prince Paul brought De La Soul. So our artists were our A&R guys at things.
When you look back over the history of Tommy Boy, what is the most exciting record that you just, the whole, everything about it, like when it was coming out and the vibe, the radio, and just the artists themselves?
Well, the first time I experienced the magic of Tommy Boy was when when I got Jazzy Sensation played at WHBI in Mr. Magic show. And he played it once or twice. I walked into the studio, which was in a brownstone on the Upper West Side, and there was it was a radio show that was only on once a week, and it was, I think, a 2 or 3 hour radio show. And there was a reggae show before it or after it, and the show before it was like Talmud time, like a Hasidic Jewish show. He bought the hour, and he sold commercials in it to pay for it. And we used to advertise in it a little bit, but I brought that record down and he played it and he'd sit there. And the same day I went there, the fantastic Aleems were there with Release Yourself on Nia Records. And both of the records were popular after he played them that day on the show. And here you're talking about maybe a 10,000 watt radio station that has a tiny listenership. The next week we had orders for 5,000 records off of this, and it was the most amazing thing. And I didn't know what I was doing. We got one spin and the record just exploded, and we ended up selling 35,000, which was enormous. It was enough, it made enough money for me to pay back my parents' loans to start the label. And it was an amazing thing. And then the next one after that, obviously Planet Rock, going as well as it did for an $800 investment in making the record, and all the magic that just happened. It made you believe in magic. It made you say, you know what, spirituality is not bogus. It's real, because this stuff just doesn't. It's beyond comprehension. The odds of things happening to me, to Tommy Boy, and to the artists that we were involved in, the way they happen, are way beyond probabilities. Way beyond probabilities. You probably have a bigger chance of the planet getting hit with a meteor than me having all these hits in that period of time, and Tommy Boy getting, all that stuff happening. It just was amazing. I like to take credit for it, and I love to give credit to our staff, and all of them were really important. But a lot of it just happened and made me believe in this magic.